Hi, welcome back to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 41B.
I'm Cam and this is Jilly.
Yes, this is the B'rit Hadashah, or the New Testament discussion of this week's Torah portion. And this week's Torah portion is found in Luke 9:51 through 10:42. So basically the end of 9 and all of 10. Yes. So let's start in 51. It says, "And it came to be when the days of his taking up were being completed, even he set his face to go to Jerusalem." So Passover is coming near, and he has set his face to go to Jerusalem. He has almost completed his mission here on earth. He met with Moses and Elijah a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
He knows his mission. He knows it's going to be complete. He trusts the Lord to bring it about. He's got his face set to go to Jerusalem. It says in 52, "And he sent messengers ahead of him, and they went and entered into a village of the Samaritans to prepare for him." Now, the Samaritans, when the Jews had blessings and good fortune from the Lord, they're like, well, we're your brothers.
exactly.
We're one of you. We're the descendants of Ephraim. And, they go through the whole gamut. But when they were cursed, or when, God was punishing them, they love to say, "Oh, see, we're not of you. We're not with you."
Doesn't that sound like the church today?
Yes. Yes. You are going to see patterns of Israel and the church all through this, or the Jews and the church. You're going to see how we're supposed to be one, but yet we'd like to be one, but we're separate. And we're going to see that all through here. It's really neat. And in 53, it says, "And they did not receive him because his face was set for the journey to Jerusalem." There we go. He was going to do Passover in Jerusalem. They're like, "No, stay here." Well, when he wouldn't, they're like, we don't accept you. We don't accept those Jewish ways.
Right.
Just like today.
Yeah.
He is set to come to Jerusalem. We are waiting for his return to Jerusalem. We're all going with him. And you've got the ones saying, "No, we don't accept you because we're not doing it that way.
Right.
We will continue to do it our way, and we know that God is with us." Now in 54, we see John and Jacob, and they're the brothers, the two brothers. And it's funny because their nicknames are Sons of Thunder, right?
Yeah.
And what's really funny about that is in 54 it says, "And his taught ones, Jacob and John, seeing it, said, 'Master, do you want us to command fire to come down from the heavens to destroy them, as also Elijah did?'" Right? Because that was the punishment. Sodom and Gomorrah, that was the punishment for not being hospitable, which Yeshua rebuked them for that because they didn't know of what spirit they're from.
Right.
They didn't understand that, look, I'm on my first mission here. This is my first mission. And in my first mission, I come to save men, not destroy them. Now we have a choice. So for the last 2,000 years, that's what it's been about.
Right.
Choice, choice, choice. But when he comes back, he's coming back as the judge, not to save men again. Well, it will be to save his own, but the invitation won't be open to everyone anymore.
No, it'll already be judgment.
Right.
I mean, line up what's in the book.
Right. And you see that he just passes right by the village and goes to another one because they missed their time of visitation.
Well, and he already did visit.
Right. And we don't want to be guilty of that.
That's right.
All right. We see in 57 that as he is going on his journey, someone approaches him and says, "Master, I want to be a disciple too. I want to follow you." And he says in 58, "And Yeshua said to him, 'The foxes have holes and the birds of the heaven nest, but the Son of Adam has nowhere to lay his head.'" I really want you to understand this, because foxes throughout the Tanakh have represented false prophets.
Right.
The birds of the heavens, through the parables that Yeshua gave, you see it in Revelation, you see it in the parables in Matthew 13. You also see it with Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel. They've represented false teachings.
Right.
All right, so you have false prophets and false teachings. They have a place to rest. But Yeshua, the ones who truly follow him, they have nowhere to call their home. And I thought, okay, as a Hebrew roots movement, we don't fit in with the Jews because they will tell you, you can't do this.
Right.
It's
You're not
disrespectful.
Jewish. Right.
if you're not Jewish, you can't be a part of this. Then you have the Christian side that says, you're not Jewish, why are you doing that? And you're not really accepted there either. You seem to be in no man's land.
Right. And both people seem to completely forget that the Lord says, these are my vessels. These are my, I mean,
Right.
he claims them. They're the Lord's. So,
Right. So I really just want to reiterate, if you are feeling discouraged on this journey, you are in great company.
Oh, yeah.
All right, now we're moving into 10. I love this. Okay, so his face is set to go to Jerusalem, right? And what are we waiting for? Him to return to Jerusalem, right? Okay, I saw a pattern here. Oh, love this. All right, so it says in 10:1, and after this, the master appointed 70 others and sent them 2 by 2, because 2 witnesses, you need a witness, ahead of him into every city and place where he himself was about to go. So here he is, face is set on Jerusalem, but now he's visiting all of the Samaritan cities, or all of the cities. It doesn't say what cities actually. He's visiting.
He's on tour.
Yes, he is on tour, because the culmination is what he does in Jerusalem.
Right.
All right. Now, the 70 people are commissioned to do exactly what the 12 did. 70 always represents the nations.
Always.
Okay? So when he sends the 70 out, he sent the 12 out before, right? Representing the beginning of his ministry.
Right.
Now here we are at the end of the 2,000 years, about to go into the millennial reign, the 1,000-year millennial reign.
Right.
We're waiting for Yeshua to come back to Jerusalem.
Because the kingdom of God is at hand.
Right. And it says now he sends the 70 out. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to have, it really is going to look like before his first coming. You know, the disciples at his first coming, death, resurrection, when they were sent out, what that looked like, it is going to look like that again, except we're bringing back in.
Right.
You know, went out, now we're going to come back in.
And you know, had it not been for the Lord mandatory dissemination of the people, kicking them out,
Yes.
we would not be able to come back in.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you know, it's not like it was a well thought out event.
Well thought out event. And I love this because it's like he's given us a timeline here. He's saying, watch for these things, because then you'll know. You know, you hear a lot of preachers, and there's so much truth to this. They say that the Lord has showed them that they're going to go back to the time of the disciples. We tend to be guilty of what the people in his day were guilty of. We're just looking for signs and wonders.
Right.
Oh, so we're going to do all these great miracles.
And look at today. That's what people want. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Now,
Right.
now, instant gratification. So, of course, that's what they're looking for.
I know. And then we see in 9, he says, and heal the sick there, and say to them, the reign of Elohim has come near to you. And they're going to cast out demons. They're going to do all of the things that the disciples did in that first age. But it's to point to Torah.
Right.
Point back to Torah, to bring them back to repentance, because the reign of Elohim is at hand. And we already heard from the Old Testament portion this week that to draw near, when he does return, we got to be clean.
Right.
We've got to be clean. I mean,
If
Paul
we want to be in
says,
his presence, we
We've
have
got-
something. We have to wash our own garments. We've got to do just like the leper had to do. He had to wash himself.
That's right.
He had a job. Exodus 19, before they met the Lord on Sinai, they had to wash themselves
That's
and be
right.
set apart.
That's right. And he says in verse 2, the harvest indeed is great, but the workers are few. Pray the master of the harvest to send out workers into the harvest. I really believe that is what's happening now. He goes on in 17 that the 70 return with joy, saying, Master, even the demons are subject to us in your name, which he goes on to say, and he said to them, I saw Satan falling out of heaven as lightning, and I thought, oh my gosh, is this a foreshadow of the timeline that we should look for? You know, we think as the church that we're just going to be raptured out, 7 years before. But here he sent the 70 out, right? To proclaim that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. They did all of these wondrous works in his name. And then he says, I saw Satan fall from heaven. And I thought, that's Revelation. Right. Revelation 12:9, which says, and the great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. It's almost like he's saying, no, you're going to be active until this time. So if that's true, then we should expect to be very active. After that, what you're going to see is the woman goes out into the woman who gave birth to Yeshua. That's Israel. Okay? The woman is the one who flees out into the wilderness and is protected. She's not taken out. She's protected.
And that's not Israel as in the people who live in the land of Israel right now. That's Israel as in his people, which would include us and us.
Right.
Okay. Those who are walking, those who have the testimony of Yeshua.
That's right.
And hold to the commandments.
Exactly.
Torah. That's who it is.
Yes. I was about to say that. He tells you who Israel is. Yes. Before we move on, I'm going to back up to 10, 12 through 15, where he talks about, and I say to you, it shall be more bearable for Sodom in that day than for that city. That's the one who will not accept these disciples that are bringing the true gospel, bringing the word to them, that the reign of Elohim is at hand. And he says, woe to you, Chorazin, Bethsaida, and then down in 15, Capernaum. Those are all the places that he's been doing these miracles. Yeah. These are where his followers are starting to follow him.
Right. That's the Nazareth. That's the, not Nazareth, but that's the northern Galilee area where he is.
And he's saying it will be better for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than it will be for you. You know why? Because when we're presented with truth, and we do not accept it and we reject it, it's worse for us. We have to take all of him on, or it will be better for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day than for us on the day of judgment. We need to take this very seriously, because...
And that makes perfect sense, because what happens when we only take half? We have half truth, and that's the problem we have today. We have half truth. We become lukewarm, and he has to spit us out, because that's
that's
not
exactly
taking all. That's what happens.
That's what the church of Laodicea, the very last church, is guilty of. They take the things of God and the things of the world, they mix them all together and present them as truth, and half truths.
And that's not a new thing. It's just that it will be the most relevant at the end. Because if you go back to Babylon, what did Babylon do? They mixed. And then they perverted. And we've had the tainting of Babylon all the way through.
Absolutely.
And it'll be even more accepted and more predominant. It is now more accepted and more predominant, because this is
than at any time. Well, and also I believe that, we learn from physics. For every reaction, there's an opposite and equal reaction. Yeah. So the more people you have returning to Torah, the more you're going to have a push in the other direction to keep the things like the Samaritans wanted to do. They want to keep their ways, keep their festivals, keep their dates, keep their mindsets, keep the half-truths.
And it can't look like, okay, so you have the ways of Torah, and then you have the Muslim ways, and I'm going to put it that way. Those are complete opposites.
Right.
Those are dangerous, but that is not as dangerous as the one that's in the middle, the Babylonian, which says, I'll take a little bit of both of them, and I'll mix it. Let's just all love everybody and get along, and all just live together.
Taking his name in vain.
What's the bumper sticker? Coexist with all the different religious, writing his name in vain. And it's not being set apart like we're told to be.
That's right.
And that's the most dangerous. And we know that from back with the Greeks when we had the Maccabees, and it happened again in Rome, and it's happened again throughout history, and it's happened again.
Well, you see, Yeshua says to the church of Laodicea, I wish that you were hot or cold.
Right.
But instead, you're lukewarm. You take it and you mix it, and you pretend to be on this side and this side.
Right.
Now we're going to move to a little bit of a controversial verse.
Like we haven't discussed anything controversial so far.
Right. Well, this one is like, oh, wow. I didn't realize it said that. It says... in 25, and see, a certain one learned in the Torah stood up trying him and saying, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit everlasting life? And he said, Yeshua said, what has been written in the Torah? How do you read it? So basically, he's confirming, well, it says in the Torah, in the volume of the book about him, right? So he says, you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And Yeshua says to him, you have answered rightly. Do this and you shall live. He's basically saying, if you love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, you inherit everlasting life. He didn't say
And you do it.
Yes, and you do it. Well, and the man wants to know, well, who's my neighbor? Right? So here we go. He gives the entire story, and I'm not going to go through it because we all know this story about the Good Samaritan. You know, you had the priest, then you had the Levi, and they would think, oh, the Jew was going to be the third one.
Right, because that was a standard story they used all the time.
It's like today, the priest, the rabbi, and the whatever it is.
Yeah, going to the bar.
The preacher, yeah. Or fishing, or whatever the joke is, you know. They had the same kind of stories, you know. So, but he uses the Samaritan, which is so ironic because the Samaritans are the ones that just rejected him. Yet he's reiterating, these are your neighbors. Even your enemy is your neighbor if they're in need, and you should help them out. And I love that because Yeshua said, now who was the neighbor? And he didn't go the Samaritan. He said the one that showed compassion. Because at that point, the man who was listening to Yeshua saw past the physical and saw the spiritual. You know, and that's how it should be. We should not see the physical. We should see past that and connect with one another spiritually.
Right.
All right. Well, that is the end. That's all I have for you today.
That's
a good one. Yes, it was.
Oh,
I saw so many parallels.
When can you go into the Word and say it's not good?
You're right. All right. Well, join us next week for episode 42.
Woo!
Yeah, now we're past my age.
Yeah. We're not yet to mine.
We hope you have a fantastic week.
Yeah.
Shalom.